All right. So I'm starting this thing off. I got the circle for the top part of the torso. Now I'm making sure I get that arm extended out how I want to. I did a thumbnail of this right here. And what is this? You can see this is a big fella right here. This is Hulk smash everything. This is my Hulk. This is my type of guy. This is first Avengers movie Hulk. This is Hulk of limited words Hulk. This is the madder I get, the stronger I get Hulk. This is the Hulk that I grew up with, the Hulk that I like. This is the Hulk that is not a professor, is not a gangster, is just pure rage and limited vocab. That's the Hulk that I like. All those other iterations are cool, but that's just not my Hulk. So anyway, drawing this hand right here in the foreground. I wanted to give this some extra depth and foreshadowing. What am I talking about? It's late at night. My fault. But anyway, now the back arm. Because I'm not a writer. Even though I have written. I'll take that back. I am a writer. I have written. But I would prefer drawing over writing. So that's why I've drawn for a lot of comic books versus written. Even though I've written a whole graphic novel. But that's a whole nother thing. All right, so getting the head, make sure the head is real small because it's the Hulk, right? So you want the head to be small and the body to be big. So I'm trying to figure out all the stuff. As Ron Benjamin always says, your thinking happens during this stage. So I'm thinking of how to add these appendages like the leg and then how the other leg is. Now, I said I did a thumbnail of this first, and I looked at a few different things when I was thinking about how to design this piece. This is actually a commission for a coworker. And so when I was looking at poses, I was looking at Hulk poses. And of course, I said, let me look out in the internet verse and see what I can find in terms of covers. So I found a few covers that I like. Then I looked throughout the web and I looked for Hulk splash pages. And I saw a few things there. Then I looked for people like, Gary Frank, who drew it. Of course, John Burns Hulk. I looked at some, some Tide Hulk. I looked for some, just different artists who have worked on the Hulk. Lim Sharp Hulk, I think he did a great job with the Hulk. So I looked for different people in their interpretation. And ironically, I don't know if I came across this or I just saw this or what, but I saw a Spider-Man pose. And I said, you know what? This would go great with the Hulk that I have to draw for this commission. So, yeah, I actually got this pose from a Spider-Man picture where Spider-Man was actually having his arm extended and he was shooting his web. And so I said this would be a great Hulk pose because if Hulk smash, and as the comic book said, Hulk smash everything, if that is truly the case, then he would probably do it with his fist down the furthest on his body and everything else above it. So that's where this pose came from. So if you're an artist out there and you're thinking about a character and you're saying, oh man, let me look up different artists or different ways this character have been posed before, you might find inspiration in characters that don't even match the character that you're drawing, because in no reality would I have thought that I would have found a Spider-Man pose to repurpose as the Incredible Hulk. No way, but that's what happened. All right, so I'm drawing veins. I'm getting all the penciling in. I have erased. You saw me do that. And so now I'm doing the shading. And I've seen some artists do this. And so I am doing this. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I've seen artists use the impact of a punch or a blast to designate the light source that's on everything. So where Hulk is smashing is going to be the actual light source. And shadows will radiate, where the light will radiate from that, and the shadows will be the opposite. So that's where I got my light source for this particular piece. You always have to have a light source. Even if you're somebody like J. Scott Campbell, who doesn't really do a deep, dark Dave Finch type shadow, but he still has a light source, right? So, and I don't know, I struggle sometimes as to how I want to do my style more linear, like a Frank Cho or a J. Scott Campbell, or do I want to do it more? Well, what I've ended up doing is having a lot more detail, like a Dave Finch or Jim Lee or other people that are very much better than I am. All of these artists that I look at are masters, and that's why I look at them and mention them, because I want to learn from them, So now I am drawing the rocks that he's shattered. Let me go ahead and do the due diligence. Like, subscribe, follow, friend, connect, kick it with me. Most of all, get Mctivated. That's what being Comicbook Bold is all about. If you want a commission done, just hit me up. All the information is in the description. All right. Once again, this is the Hulk that I will say is my Hulk. This is the one that is devastating. Is damage bringing. Speaking of damage, I do have a drawing of Damage, which was a DC character, versus the Hulk. And it was kind of a cool concept. All right, so now that I have all the stones in, I am drawing the rubble. I'm giving it more of an edge. Here is another tip. Do as I say, not as I do. Sharpies are not acid-free. They will disintegrate and turn like a purplish type color after a while. But the final part of this commission is actually a colored piece. But still, it's not a good idea to use Sharpie for final pieces. As I'm saying that, I'm drawing but I love their mark though. That's what's crazy. I love their mark. I am drawing the rubble, now the outline. And as you see, I'm drawing and I'm keeping a good angle on all the outline. And that to me is always, it always adds some character. I can't remember what artist I was talking to, but they talked about that. We were talking about Therese, which is an artist who I believe changed the game, Travis Therese. And so the artist, who was another industry star, said that, Therese, his stuff is very angled. And so once I saw that, I said, you know what? It is. So I kind of incorporated that in my style too. However, I will say that once I started using a paint tip marker to do a lot of work. Oh, I just want to mention I changed the size of my brush. This is a brush of my marker. This is a real small mechanical pen right there. And I got this from Todd Knock, who uses a finer point to do his faces. And then any line that he needs to thicken, he can thicken with the small marker or small pen that he uses. So that's something that I kind of got from him. Because you can add more detail. And of course you want the face to be as cool as you can make it. Putting a little turn in the lips. I always like when artists do that with the Incredible Hulk. Putting the wrinkles by the eyes. Again, establishing that light source. Doing my feathering. Getting these teeth in. And the tongue, then the bottom teeth. Do the gums. Darken in where the tongue is. Yeah, I like that. Putting little specks for the eyeballs because the head is small. What you'll notice and you'll find out is sometimes, especially I found with Superman, sometimes all his eyes are, depending on the size, are just little specks. So now I'm doing some feathering. All pointed back toward the light source. Some shoulder blades. Even on the veins right there, I'm making note of what part needs to be shaded and what part needs to be thin or just a line. And I'm cheating on some of it too. And so this is the one thing that you might have to remember. If you're doing veins, unless you're going in later with whiteout or something like that, which I am not, you want to do the veins before you do the muscles, or at least that's how I like to work it. And I think at this point I had made a decision that I am doing all the interior muscles on this body with this small detailed pen. My reason being that it would provide a great texture. And so, yeah, I decided that. And so the light source is basically at the end of this fist. And I had already gone through and decided where the shading should be. So I'm just inking those places right now. Now I'm on the knuckles. I was thinking, how should I do it over these veins? But again, that's why I did the veins first, so that I wouldn't have to come in with white out and white them out, which probably would have been better. A better look, maybe. All right. So I basically got the hand where I want it, because the way I'm thinking is the closer you get to the light source, the less shading and all that. And since this is a color piece, I knew that I was coming back later to put some color in there. I decided to change the hatching on that particular part. So go around the arm. Yeah, getting this forearm right. All those ligaments and muscles and the way that they operate on the forearm. And this is the Incredible Hulk, so you get an opportunity to kind of play with that a little more. Do my feathering. Now, the one thing about this is, if you're going to do all your detailing with a smaller pen, it's going to take you longer because it's going to be more strokes. All right, get this bicep shaded. And this part between the bicep. Just trying to make sure tricep, where it separates. Again, putting all these ligaments and other stuff in it. I love the John Byrne Hulk, where the muscles are just, I don't know, just bulky, just everywhere. Just everywhere. Liam Sharp did a great job as well with Hulk. Man, I love his Hulk. Very detailed. I remember picking up that book at the comic book stores when that was out. Getting this shoulder done. Yeah. And as you can see, I'm doing the halo thing. Trying to make this look muscular. Trying to make the Hulk be what the Hulk is. And this muscle right here that's on the shoulder blade. Now, I'm not one that knows all the muscles. I am more concerned with what my professor used to call surface anatomy. I was not really concerned at all with knowing every muscle and every muscle group and all that. So I used to go to the grocery store, or at least when my mother went to the grocery store, what I would do is go to the magazine section. And in addition to picking up stuff like Right On and other rap publications, I would pick up muscle books and fitness books, and I would look at how the skin wrapped around the human figure for my comic books. And part of my anatomy comes from looking at those muscle books a long time ago. And what's crazy, the first thing I realized when I started doing that was that most comic book artists, or I'll say a lot of them at that time, were not reality based in how they drew their figures. They just sort of just drew them. And that was always kind of funny to me. Like, oh, wow, y'all just straight up made up how the muscles look. And so some of the muscles were accurate or at least had a sense of accuracy. But I will tell you, a lot of what comic book artists did back in the 80s when I started collecting, it seems as though that they were just making up stuff. And so I guess you could say that's where I found out it was okay to make up anatomy. I didn't have to know all of it. And I would definitely say I do not know all of it. I do not. So I'm shading this leg right now, being mindful of, again, the light source. This foot down here, this leg bent back. I am recognizing and understanding the opposites. You got the opposites going on. You got a hand forward. The opposite leg is more forward. All right. So on these shadows for these pieces of stone, I'm making sure that they radiate from the light source. So I'm just kind of shading them as I figure out where I want to put that. Thought I had forgotten about your stone. Putting little lines to kind of help me as I move further and further away from it, which gives it a little more detail. Designating that thumb right there. Okay, now I'm back to shading rocks. And this, ladies and gentlemen, does not have to be perfect. It just has to give you a sense that the light source is where the punch is. That's my main thing in doing this. Because the reality is I'm through with the Hulk himself. I am through drawing and detailing him. So now I'm worried about, I won't say background, but because a lot of these stones are in front of the Hulk, foreground. This is foreground. And there is something I should have done that I didn't do. I know the person I'm doing this commission for won't mind it not being done, but to even add to the depth, what I should have done was I should have had the stones in the foreground with a larger outline. That's what I should have done. But I'm working through it. I'm getting all shaded. And again, you saw that I designated my light source and had everything coming from the light source. Now I'm doing some comic book lines, things that do not appear in real life ever. But comic books do all the time. The wham, boom, bam of Batman back in the day. Now some anime manga style action lines or influence. I'm not doing it like they don't do it, but I'm doing my version of them on this one. All right. If the light source is down that way, then the head will be shaded on the back. So now it's time for, yep, you guessed it, my brush tip. Making sure that I'm doing that calligraphy line. Some parts are thick, some parts are thin. The thicker parts are the parts that are away from the light. Now, you don't have to always do it like that, but that's sort of a good rule of thumb to do it like that. And as soon as I do that, as soon as I put that outline on it, that hand comes out. Hand. That arm. Eventually I get to the hand. Yeah. Now I'm down to the hand. So, again, and then I did a little overlap there. That helps with the illusion. All right. Keeping the fingertips pretty thin in terms of line. Make that line around the back real thick as he turns his back. Lines for the face and head. It's thicker away from the light, thinner as you get toward the light. Also, when you're doing this type of outline, it allows you, ironically, to fix some mistakes or continue correcting. Let me say that. Continue to correct things that you may say, I could change that during this. All right, got that hand. On that side of the leg, it's going to be a little dark. On that side of the toe, the back of that calf is going to be a little dark. Sometimes the outline of the figure is to shade it. So shade it in and give it definition. Now, what I didn't do is make lines real thick, but I did at least put some lines on top. I made sure that boulder overlapped the other one. And again, that gives these figures weight, whether the figure is a rock or the figure is the Hulk himself. The outline really weighs it into the picture, even though the light source is from the bottom, it still adds volume to the character. Yeah, see that stone right there? I could have made the whole entire outline thick, then done the calligraphy effect on it. And kind of picked and choose some other ones that I could have made huge outlines on. And now I'm doing, I can't remember what artist said this, but actually a lot of them have said this. But yeah, I'm just throwing lines. That's what they say, throwing lines. I'm just throwing lines. All right. So I'm looking at where the shading is and the shadow is on the rock, and I'm kind of drawing toward that shadow or from that shadow in. Looking around, scanning. Anything else need to be drawn in? I don't think so. I think we can go to the next part, which is my name. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Hulk smash everything. This is my Hulk. Then I colored this piece and I gave it to my client. So, bam.
Leron McAdoo found joy in drawing superheroes, but he was an illiterate third grader. So suddenly his mother said she would not buy another comic book until he could read them. McAdoo rose above being afraid of words to getting paid for words. Now he uses words to get people Mctivated about their own superpower. He drew strength from drawing. This is Comicbook Bold. To see his comic commissions and comic art, go to Pinterest.com at that hip hop and select Leron McAdoo art.